Well, welcome everyone. It is 8 a.m. here in Denver, Colorado. So we are very excited to have you here joining us for this Mastering Sugars webinar training. We are also excited that we get to share with you the newest features that have been released with our most recent major version release, version 4.4.18. This version comes packed full with some new enhancements that we are really excited about. Development takes quite a while, and this has been in progress for quite a while. So it was a big celebration when we were able to release this for you. I would like to introduce you to our Chief Engineer of Application and Customer Support, Mr. Scott Carey. A lot of you know him. We are so fortunate to have his expertise and input here at Sugars, and really excited about what he's going to be able to share with you today. So Scott, you can take it over.
All right, thanks, Sally. Welcome again to everybody. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen, this one here. And then I think I'll turn off my camera just to make sure we have a clear view of the screen. Yeah, as Sally said, we're hoping to show everybody some of the new features in Sugars 4.4 today. There's several pretty major things that we've improved upon, and we'll go through kind of the list of them, and just so everybody's aware, the one big one I think a lot of people are excited about, I know I am, is the Excel add-in, and in typical fashion, we're going to save that one for the end. So please stick with us. We'll see the Excel add-in before we finish here today. Also, if at any point you have any questions, you can type them into the Q&A section in our meeting here, and we'll either potentially just answer them right as they come up, but if I'm busy and I miss it, then we'll come back to them before the end, okay? For starters, what I have on the screen right now is just one of the Sugars example models, the simple 4-effect multiple evaporator train model. And I'll start by showing you just a new sort of an enhancement to an existing feature. So we've had the Sugars license server available for a little while now. And one of the improvements in Sugars 4.4 is that we've increased the length of time that offline mode can be active to up to 2 weeks. So this is particularly useful for folks that travel and take Sugars with them on their laptop and work at remote locations that maybe they don't have continuous access to the internet. So you can use this offline mode here to essentially check out a Sugars license from the license server, and it'll be active on whatever computer is running offline mode for up to 2 weeks now. That's the improvement. We've increased that to 2 weeks. So then, of course, when you get back to the internet, you can turn off offline mode and make that license available again on the server to any other machines that might be tied to that license chair. So just wanted to let everyone know that's available now. And now on to a little bit more exciting stuff. First of all, the evaporator station has seen a couple of new improvements. And the first thing I want to mention is if you're using an existing model that was developed in a previous version of Sugars prior to 4.4, in order to gain access to these new evaporator features, you're going to want to replace the evaporator station in your model by dragging and dropping a new one from the stencil here in Sugars 4.4. So that's what I've done in this example model. The first three here are the old existing evaporators in that older example model, but this fourth effect I've replaced with a new one. So I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in here so we can see this last evaporator effect. If I go ahead and click on it, then we can see there's a couple of things that are new, that have changed. The first one here is this liquid discharge depth. This is a feature that was requested a while ago to basically account for the difference in static pressure at basically the bottom of a flooded evaporator vessel, such as a Roberts evaporator, and the liquid surface, the boiling surface, which of course is at whatever pressure the headspace is at. There's no static head pressure on the surface. So if this value here is 0, then Sugars basically calculates the evaporator the same way it always did in the older versions, assuming that the pressure is the same throughout the boiling liquid. However, if we want to account for a liquid height, essentially a static head within the evaporator vessel, we can enter a value here. In this case, I'm going to put 1.5 meters in here for the liquid discharge depth. So that would be the difference between the boiling surface and the discharge depth where the liquid is coming out of the evaporator. So if I enter 1.5 here, click OK, you'll notice that our balance button here has turned red. So that means we're no longer in balance, but I'll click the balance button. Let me back up. Before I do that, you'll note that the temperatures of the vapor coming out of the evaporator and the syrup coming out of the evaporator are the same, both 74.4 degrees C, because they're both considered saturated at the same pressure. So those are the same temperature currently. If I click full balance now, since I entered the 1.5 meter difference in height, now you can see that the output vapor temperature is only 57 degrees C, while the output syrup temperature is 74.6 degrees C. So now we have a difference in temperature, which is actually observed in practice. In this case, it's pretty dramatic because we're at the very low pressure of the last effect evaporator. But in any case, this allows you to more accurately model flooded evaporator bodies such as Roberts style evaporators. So that's one new evaporator enhancement. The other one is this one here called effect label. So previously, the only way to display what effect number each evaporator was on the screen was basically to type that on the screen in a text box. That's what these are here. These are just text boxes that have the label typed in them. However, let me open that evaporator again. Now we have the option under the effect number selection. Now we have effect label. And there's actually two options here. We can choose ordinal, which is pretty simple, and it just shows fourth effect. And that would be updated if we were to change the effect number of the evaporator. So for instance, if I come here and change it to first effect, you can see that label is automatically updated. So this is a little easier, and it automatically updates as you change things in your model. So let me go back to fourth effect. And then the other type of effect label is what we call long. And this gives you even more information. So in this case, it says 510 effect 4. And what that means is that it's looking at the first evaporator station number in the train. That's station 510 over here. And again, it's telling us that it's the fourth effect. This is especially useful if you have multiple evaporator trains in one display. It helps to keep track of which evaporators belong to which train. So this one's telling us again that this is the fourth effect in the evaporator train that starts with evaporator station 510. So those are the two things that I think are especially useful in evaporators now as new features in 4.4. Another one that I wanted to show that's a pretty exciting new feature in 4.4, and it's something that I've kind of had on my wish list for a long time, and we were able to get it done, is something called Station Legend. So everyone's aware that's been using sugars, and if you haven't, then I'll just reiterate that we have flow legends. I'll just double click on one here that we've had these for many, many years. They allow you to display updated information about flow streams on the drawing surface. So you can choose from this list of parameters, put your little check boxes in, click OK. So this one, let's say I'll add something. We've got flow, pressure, and temperature. Let's add the volume per minute. I click OK, and now I had this liters per minute added. Of course, it's steam, so it's a very large number. That's something we've had for a long time. Now we have a new option. If I right click on a station, so in this case, this evaporator station, and click Add Station Legend, now I get a similar list of parameters that I can choose from to list information from the station parameters. So instead of a flow stream, now we're looking at station parameters. So if I check this Show the Labels for Fields box, that will actually show what each field is when it displays it. And then I can choose things like the heat transfer coefficient and maybe the heat loss percentage for this evaporator body. And these are, useful pieces of information that you used to need to write custom fields for to show this information in Visio, but now we've made it easier just using the station legend. So if I click OK here, it drops the station legend here down below the station, but I can move it. And it's in a different font than the standard flow legend font, and that's to help kind of differentiate it so you can see the difference. I'm just going to move it up here. There we go. Now we can see it better. But you can change that font if you like. So I've got this selected. I could go to the home menu here and change this back to Arial, and I could change the size and do different things like that, even if I wanted to say center the information in the box. And then all this data, of course, is updated anytime any changes are made. So if I come here and I change my heat transfer coefficient to 2,500 and click OK, now you can see that station legend variable updated with the correct information after I changed it in the station. So I see, it looks like someone posted a question in the chat. Oh, we have a couple of them. So it says vapor temp shown for evap is superheated or saturated. So in the case of this this flow legend, I've chosen the actual temperature. So if there were any superheat, this would be the superheated temperature. Saturation temperature is a separate selection. We can choose that as well. So in that case, the saturation temperature would be 53.5 degrees C. So that should answer that one. And then evaporator legend, temperature gradient is missing. Why? I'm not sure. Oh, so let's go back here. So I'm not sure what you're referring to with regard to temperature gradient. But
you might be change the whole evaporator with a new set, then you can put the label. That's why they ask you the temperature. If you see the third set, 101, and the juice also 101. The vapor and the juice.
No, I asked the question, actually. The temperature gradient is one of the most important parameters for evaporator. And I expected it should be shown in the legend. It is a difference between the temperature of heating steam inlet evaporator and juice outlet evaporator. But unfortunately, it is not listed in the legend.
Yes, because the legend only includes parameters that are part of the evaporator calculations. So that are available, I should say, in the Visio shape sheet parameters for the evaporator. So if you want to see that difference, you could create a custom calculation parameter. So because that information is available in the flow stream of the output and the steam input. So I could right click here and add a flow legend for the temperature. And we actually, we've done another webinar a few years ago explaining how to create custom calculated parameters on the drawing surface. So you could use those two pieces of information and simply calculate that difference and display it on the screen if you like.
It's okay, clear, thank you. Because the delta T is normally known for sugars because the heat transfer surface can be determined based on delta T by taking the given heat transfer coefficient and the heat load. Or you can determine the heat transfer coefficient based on the heating surface and the heat load. So the formula still is existing and delta T is known for sugars. The only thing missing is only to show it as a parameter in the legend. But it is okay, it can also be done like this. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks for the question.
Thank you.
All right, so let me look at my list here. So one more piece of new information that's available, and I think you could see it in the station legend as well, but I'll start by clicking on, or excuse me, the flow legend. So in flow streams now, we've added viscosity as a calculated parameter for each flow stream. Now, viscosity is not particularly used in the mass and energy balance calculations for sugars. However, it is made available here for flow streams in case you're using this flow data for some external piping or pump type calculations or any other sort of mechanical engineering software or anything that needs viscosity information. We've just utilized some standard viscosity formulas to calculate this now, and it's available for each flow stream. So you can see this fairly low concentration juice here. It's only 15% dry solids, has a very low viscosity, 0004. But if we click on the syrup at the outlet of the evaporator train, clicking on the parameters button there, you can see that the viscosity is much higher due to the increase in dry solids. This one's at 67.2% dry solids. So 0.0138 Pascal seconds here. So you can see Sugars is calculating the viscosity now, and if you want, I'll just double click on this flow legend here. You can now choose viscosity from the list in the flow legend and include it. So you can see now at the bottom of the list here, we have the viscosity added to the flow legend. Okay, just checking the questions list. It looks like no new ones. So those are all the new features, I would call them, except for the Excel add-in. We'll get to the Excel add-in in a moment. But there's one more thing I want to show off first, and I'm actually going to switch to a different example model to show that one. So this is our Beat Factory example model, and what I've done is I've saved it and I've created a minor balance error. Basically, I've caused something that's not going to work quite right when we balance it. And what I want to show is the way that our new Sugars 4.4 balance errors window works and the new features associated with that. So I'm just going to go ahead and click full balance here as if I don't know where the error is or what's wrong with the model. So clicking the balance button here, it looks like as soon as the balance proceeds, Sugars is showing me this error message here. Now, if you've been using Sugars for a long time, you may remember that previously the balance errors display was essentially just a list of text listing each of the errors and what station they're associated with. We've improved that pretty dramatically in Sugars 4.4. Now you have a table. In this case, there's only one error in this model, but if there were more, there would be more rows in the table. And it provides a little bit more information about the error. But what's really nice is that it's more organized. You can also you can keep this on top. Click this always on top button, and then you can go back and you can manipulate the model while this is still open. So you can still see what the errors are. You know, I could open the properties for this station and work with it while the error window is still open. So that's very helpful that I can still have that as a reference on my screen. But what's even more useful in my mind is this button here that says Go to Station. So if I click this, notice that on this page, I don't see heater number 479. The station numbers on this page, it looks like are in the 100s and 200s. Let's say I don't know where station number 479 is. If I click this button here that says Go to Station, Sugars automatically jumps to the correct page. So we switch to a different model page here from diffusion over to purification. And it also highlights and selects the station that's associated with this error. So you can see, I'm going to zoom in here. This particular heat exchanger station is station 479. You can see that the outline and the lines in the station are kind of a bright red color now. That's showing us that there's an error or a warning message associated with this station. And again, when I click Go to Station, it's automatically selected. So you can see the little selection dots around it. So that's a really fast way to find the errors that are going on with your model, and much quicker than just trying to search through the entire model looking for the stations associated with error messages. So this one says that the port 0 output flow temp was specified to be less than the port 0 in temp. So it looks like maybe I have a temperature specification problem. So if I double click on this stream, my input temperature is 83.8 degrees C, and looks like I've specified only 82 degrees C in the heat exchanger, but it's being heated with steam, so there's no way it can cool down to 82. It needs to be heating. So if I just increase this to 85 degrees C and click OK, now I can close the errors, rebalance the model. And with the error message no longer active because the problem has been fixed, you can see that the station now returns to its normal color without the red outlines. And if I click the last errors and warnings, now it's gone. We don't see the error message here anymore. So any questions or comments about the new error handling? Looks like there's been a little bit, a couple of other questions over here. I see, what about density as flow legend? I don't believe that one is available. Let's just take a look here. So if we go here, add flow legend. Yeah, density is not included in this list for the flow legend. I'm trying to remember. Let's see if it's available in the shape sheet. So I clicked on developer up here and then show the shape sheet, and that brings up all the Visio information for the flow stream here, and that's in the shape data, this category here. So the density is available in the shape sheet data. So you could use a custom formula on the screen to display that density information. So again, we did another webinar a few years ago on displaying custom information in text fields on the drawing surface. But I appreciate you bringing that up because maybe for a future version of Sugars, we'll look at adding that density parameter to our flow legend options list. So that's a good idea. Okay, and then there's been another comment about plate evaporator type. Yeah, so we have several different evaporator stencils. If we go to the evaporation shape stencil here, so you've got calandria evaporators, falling film, falling film plate, forced circulation, long tube. All these utilize the same set of calculations, but they just have different pictures on the screen. And if you're talking about a like a booster heat exchanger, you can also set that up using a heat exchanger with essentially using a pump and a circulation flow through the heat exchanger just to recycle back to the evaporator. Okay, question about, is there a link to access other webinars we've done in the past? We can provide that later, but just so you're aware at this right now, we have a YouTube channel. It's simply called Sugars International. And so if you search YouTube for Sugars International, you could find all of our videos of our previous webinars available there. I believe all the webinars are public, so you don't have to have the link. You should be able to find them just by browsing our YouTube channel. Is it possible for Sugars to calculate the DS between the bodies between each effect if we have juice flows in series and steam in parallel by defining the DS in the last body and last effect? Okay, so this is getting into a little bit of a different subject matter, but just real quickly, I'll mention that if you have parallel steam in your evaporator train, you'll need to set one of those effects up kind of to operate independently, because sugar, there's an extra degree of freedom created when you put parallel effects in an evaporator train. So Sugars is not able to sort out which effect should have which amount of load. So just briefly, again, this is kind of another subject for another day, but if you have parallel evaporator effects, just set one of them up to be as the first effect and kind of run it independently with its own DS set point. Okay, so last but not least, I think let's show off the Sugars Excel add-in. So I'm going to go ahead and close this Beat Factory example model. We'll go ahead and save that. So now we're back to the 4-effect multiple example. So the most exciting in my mind new feature here with Sugars 4.4 is the Excel add-in. So I'm just going to open Microsoft Excel. And we'll just start a new blank workbook here. And one thing you might notice immediately is there's an extra menu tab up here at the top of Excel. When you install Sugars 4.4, this menu tab will be automatically added to your Excel add-ins, unless for some reason add-ins are disabled on your machine or something, and then you may have to go and kind of manually get it working. But in most cases, when you install Sugars 4.4, the Excel add-in is automatically added to Excel. So when you open it, you'll have this Sugars Excel tab up here. So what this allows you to do is connect cells in a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet to active Sugars parameters in an open Sugars model that's running on the same PC. And those cells will then automatically update anytime the Sugars model data changes. So I'm just going to set up a little example here. We have this 4-effect multiple example model here. So I'll just start with something simple like the juice flow coming in to the model. So we know the first effect evaporator is station 510. And I'm just going to zoom in here. We know that the juice is coming into input port 0. I don't know if you can see, there's a very small 0 right there next to that input port. So that's really all we need to know, is that we're looking at station 510 juice input port 0. So I'm going to come here to my Excel spreadsheet, and I'll just create a label here that says juice flow. And then in this cell, the first thing I need to do is connect the project. So I come up here to this Sugars Excel menu, click Connect Project, and now I need to browse and select the project file, the Visio drawing file that I want to connect to. In this case, it's this one here that says For Effect Multiple Effect Label. That's where I saved it. So I'll just click Open. And remember, this needs to be open in Visio in order to for this connection to work. But I'll just go ahead and click Test Connection. Let's see, why did that fail? Let's go ahead and make sure this is balanced. And let's try that connection again. There we go. So I just needed to make sure that it was active in Visio. I think I'd had the other model active most recently. So the currently active and open model can be, you can create this connection in Excel. I just tested it. It's successfully connected now. So now when I click OK, now that I have a connected project, I have some more options here that are active in my Excel menu. So again, I'm selected here on cell B10. If I click Add or Edit Sync, this allows me to synchronize this cell to Sugars data. So I wanted to get the juice flow from that's going to station 510. That's the first effect evaporator. So if I click on that in the list here, because this list in the left includes all the stations in your model. So I'll just click on the first one there, first effect 510 evaporator. And I can choose from several options here. I can choose from station parameters. So this is all the list of parameters available for the station. Or I can choose from flow stream parameters that are connected to that station. So we wanted to look at the incoming juice flow. So that's incoming port number 0 flow stream. So right here, if I click this, now I get a list of parameters associated with that flow. So I think all we really wanted was the weight flow rate. So if I check or select that field, click OK. Now we have the mass flow of that juice that was coming into station 510 input port 0. And I'm just going to add the units here in the cell next to it so we can see that. And maybe we want to add another parameter here, maybe the solids content. So we could go now to this next cell and just go back, add, edit, sync again, do the same thing. I'll go to that same flow stream, and in this case, we'll go to dry substance liquid as our parameter. Okay, and then I'll just add my units here. Okay, so these two cells are linked to the Sugars model. And I can do things like changing the font or changing, let's say, for instance, here I would like to see the comma, but not so many decimal places. So I can do things like that to change the formatting of the cell, and it's still linked. It's still connected to the Sugars model. Okay, so we can see the values here, and we can look at the Sugars model, and we can look at the values for the flow stream, and 245,500.5 and 15% DS. That one's right here. So we can see that those match. But let's say that we change them. So now I'm going to go to 247,000 for the flow, and let's change the DS and purity. Let's change this to 14.5 DS. Okay. Click OK. Now, of course, my model is no longer balanced because I made a change, so I need to do a full balance. Okay, now I've done the balance. Let's take a look. And you can see here those linked cells updated based on the changes that I made. And the same thing will work if we choose some parameter that's not an input parameter, right? Because this is an external flow stream. I input those values. But let's say it's something that Sugars has calculated. So let's go to station 540. Let's look at the pressure. 12.7 kPa is where it's at right now. So station 540 pressure. So let's just call that pressure. All right, back to my Sugars Excel, add or edit sync. All right, so I need to find station 540 here, and this time I'm using a station parameter, so I'll just leave this on the station selection here in the middle column. And then let's look at I think it's going to be saturation pressure. Okay, yep, 12.7. Okay, so we'll go ahead and reduce the number of decimals there. Oops. That was kPa. Yes, kPa. All right, so let's change the DS set point here to 65 and rebalance the model. And now our outlet vapor pressure changed to 15 kPa. That was calculated by Sugars. I didn't force that change. And you can see that the cell in Excel has updated for that. So you can see there's a few other things that we can do here with the Sugars Excel add-in. One of them is remove sync. So if you want to basically break that link between Sugars and Excel so that these cells are now static again, you could just click select your cell and click remove sync. I won't do that right now, but you can also click select synced, and that will automatically select all the cells in your spreadsheet that are synchronized to Sugars. So that's a quick way just to sort of remind yourself which cells in your spreadsheet are connected to a Sugars model. You also have the option to change station number. So in the case that you have used back in Sugars, you've used the renumber stations feature, and you've changed some station numbers, then you'll need to update those new station numbers in Excel because the link between your Excel cells and your Sugars model is based on station numbers. So if you do that, just remember that if you change any station numbers, you can use this button here to update those station numbers in your Excel spreadsheet. Okay. So let's take a look here at the questions list. So I see someone's asking, can we link multiple models in one sheet? Want to compare two models. So I agree that would be great to be able to do that. Unfortunately, that feature is not currently available. Each spreadsheet will need to link to a single Sugars model that's currently open. The links do save with the spreadsheet. So for instance, if I save, let's go here, save this spreadsheet. Let's put it in Sugars temp. So I can save this. I can close this this spreadsheet, and then go back. And so if we go to Sugars Excel, you can see that when I reopened this spreadsheet, it automatically reconnected to the Sugars model because it's still open. So the links are kept with when you save the spreadsheet. But again, it's only each spreadsheet can only link to one sugars model at a time. Okay, another question here. It says, this is related to customization. Unable to customize the size of faceplate, unable to see the color parameters below. Please guide, or how I can do this. So there's a picture here of the a properties window. Yeah, so the properties windows are formatted to show all the information in an organized kind of arrangement. So that's why they're kind of set to a static size, as if the size were to change, those properties would potentially not show up in the right order and in the right shape. Let's see, he's got I think that's a flow stream properties window. So yeah, this is kind of static just because everything is arranged in a certain way. And if we allowed resizing this window, you would perhaps see these wouldn't be in nice straight columns anymore. You know, the components wouldn't be. So as far as unable to see the color parameters below, I'm not sure. Not sure if there's one thing you could check is your overall screen resolution that you're viewing sugars with. I know if the screen resolution is not large enough, it can cause some issues with how these windows will display. I've seen that in other programs besides sugars as well. So yeah, that'd be my suggestion, will be to check your viewable screen resolution and maybe increase that if you can. Okay, next question down there. Example, cane sugar factory when juice flow reverse direction inlet feed from last body. So I think maybe that would be something that would be good for another webinar someday, perhaps, or a training session. We'll put that, keep that in mind for a future session. Can you open a 4.4.18 version model in older versions of sugars? Unfortunately, no, you cannot. Because we've added new parameters to the database and new features, if you opened a model saved in 4.4 in an earlier version, there'd be things that earlier version doesn't recognize, and it wouldn't run properly. Okay, so HTC calculation for evaporators based on operating and physical parameters like temperature, breaks, viscosity, etc., is not possible in sugars. Why? Okay. Well, that's actually it says the formulas are pretty known and already published many times, and that is true, but there's a lot more that goes into those besides just the temperature, breaks, and viscosity. There's also all of the detailed physical design elements of the evaporator itself. So the flow rate through the tubes, assuming it's a forced circulation type. If it's a plate type, then you need to know the distances between the plates and the film thickness of the juice flowing over the surfaces. Essentially, that's a mechanical design calculation, and sugars being a mass and energy balance software doesn't really get into mechanical design of equipment. So we leave that to the evaporator designers to determine the exact heat transfer coefficient that they predict for new equipment. Now, what Sugars is good at is taking the actual operating data from existing equipment and then calculating the achieved heat transfer coefficient, which also depends on things like fouling and if there's any pluggage in any parts of the surfaces or the tubes. So the results that you get out of Sugars, if you're kind of back calculating an existing heat transfer coefficient, are probably more accurate actually than you would get from trying to use mechanical design calculations, because those mechanical design calculations it's very difficult to account for, like I said, things like fouling or pluggages or any mechanical issues that might be happening in the vessel.
Yeah, I mean, with these formulas for example, for falling film evaporators, the HTC is depending only from the viscosity. And it is a well-known formula used everywhere. And for robot evaporators, it is a formula depending from temperature gradient, Brix outlet juice, and temperature outlet juice. So independent now from the design. And I understand what you said. It is also clear. But is there any possibility, at least, to put our own equation to determine the HTC directly without getting or putting it as a value in the calculation? To use
No,
own equation? No, it is not possible.
No, there's no way to currently, there's really no way to push that value into the model. Well, I take that back. You could use the XML import-export feature if you had a program separate from Sugars that was calculating your HTCs, and you could create the XML data format and then import that into your model. Then you could perhaps do it that way, but that would be the only way currently that's available to do that.
Okay, and this is also described in the manual book, correct? How to do it.
The XML import-export feature is in the help manual, yes. How to set up the calculations in your program, that would be separate.
It is different. Yes, it is different thing. Yes, we can do it. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, I see another question that says, can we descrub the old version files used in 4.4.18 version? I'm not sure which way you're referring to. Yes, you can use 4.4.18 to scrub the old files from prior to 4.0. So if you're using a 3.9 model, you can scrub it and use it in 4.4. But there is no way to go the other direction. So my suggestion would be to just save a backup, which actually the model scrubber automatically saves a backup. Anytime you scrub a model, it automatically does that. But no, once you've saved a model in 4.4, then it will only be usable in 4.4 or later versions. Okay. Any other questions or comments? I see one more about reverse feed of juice. Again, I think maybe we'll consider that for a future webinar topic for evaporator setup. So I appreciate that comment. Okay, well, I don't see any more questions coming up right now, so I just want to say thanks to everybody for joining. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. We appreciate everyone's input, and we're really excited about all these new features and enhancements in Sugars 4.4. And of course, we're already working on things that will be in another release upcoming, Sugars 4.5. That will be just a little while yet, but look for that in the future coming up. And anytime you have any questions or concerns or need any support, please don't hesitate to contact us. As long as you are an active Sugars user, we provide support and help for anything that you need on the program. So again, thank you very much. I'll turn it back over to Sally just to wrap things up.
Again, what Scott said, thank you so much for joining us today. We really rely on your feedback and your input. This software is created specifically for you, for your industry, and the work that you're doing on a daily basis. So we're so grateful for your time and energy that you put into attending today, but also for the feedback we received. Many of these features are based on feedback we've received over the years. So we're just thankful that you continue to support us and support the great work of Sugars. So thank you for joining us. As Scott mentioned, the webinars will be posted on our YouTube channel, which is Sugars International LLC. All of you can easily access that. For some of the previous webinars that we've provided, one of our goals is to continue to provide more and more webinars. So we welcome your feedback, and some of the feedback we've received today, being able to provide those webinars to clarify and provide more support is very helpful to us. So thank you for that. And again, just continue to give us feedback. We welcome it, and use it in all of our decisions as we move forward and continue to enhance and develop Sugars. So we hope you each have a great rest of your week. And I will be emailing a video recording of this webinar to all registered participants. So you are welcome to view it again, and you will be able to access it on YouTube. Take care. Have a great day. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for your efforts,
Thank you, Vic. Thank you. Appreciate all the feedback and comments. It's so helpful.